Get up, stand up. It's the morning lips. Praises up. Start your week with us. Get up. It's the morning lips. Speak your soul. It'll make you whole. He's in control. It's the morning lips. Get up, stand up. Praises up. It's the morning. It's the morning lips.
Well, hello and good morning. This is the Morning Lift Show with Dr. Sean Kyle. And this is an amazing day. Everyone, you're listening to me on Intellectual Radio and iHeart and watching me live streamed on Facebook on Dr. Sean Kyle. And I have in the building, I have a very special featured guest today. As you know, today, this show is a show that's all about your wellness journey, your spiritual, physical, emotional, and mental wellness journey as you get life going. It starts your week off every Monday morning at 8 a.m. As the music says, we're going to feed your soul. And so today we're all about our spiritual wellness. And we have as our featured guest, Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III in the house. I'm so excited to talk with you. And I feel very blessed, very honored, very humbled to speak with you. I mean, you have been on a roll lately. Just yesterday, I watched you on the Oprah show. And a couple of days before that, I saw you on Joy Reid and the Readout. I said, well, I have him on the Morning Lift Show with Dr. Sean Kyle. So without further ado, let me tell you more about our guest. Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III is senior pastor of Trinity United Church of Christ in Chicago. He is a preacher, poet, activist, author, and filmmaker with an eye toward justice and equality as evidenced through the gospel of Jesus Christ. He founded the Unashamed Media Group, a justice-centered, faith-based agency committed to producing and curating stories to inspire the heart and challenge the mind. His most recent book is Blue Note Preaching in a Post-Soul World, Finding Hope in an Age of Despair. In October 2020, Dr. Moss created Otis's Dream, a short film about his grandfather's unsuccessful attempt to vote in 1946. Dr. Moss preaches a theology of liberation rooted in a Black spirituality of love and justice. His passion for African American culture and history, combined with a deep appreciation for jazz and hip hop, have culminated in a unique message of hope and healing through a jazz narrative of American democracy. His, most recently, his message has been featured on the Meditative Stories podcast, as well as on Being with Krista Tippett. The COVID-19 pandemic provided a new opportunity to convey scriptural messages through a cinematic and sermonic lens. The Unashamed Media Group has produced 5 short films, sermons using cinematic liturgy in 2020. Dr. Moss is ordained in the Progressive National Baptist Convention and the United Church of Christ. Dr. Moss was identified by the Baylor Convention and, by the Baylor University Baylor University George W. Truett Theological Seminary as one of the 12 most effective preachers in the English language in 2018. He is married to the wonderful First Lady, Monica Brown Moss. Let me get that right. Monica Brown Moss. Hallelujah. And they are the grateful parents of the amazing team of MK and Eli. I like to call them my friends, my family. I'm so happy that you will be here with me on this show on the eve of such an important election tomorrow. This is November 2nd, and tomorrow is historic, and your film is historic. So welcome to the show, Reverend Moss. And without further ado, because people want to hear from you, what has been your spiritual journey? I don't know if you've always wanted to be a pastor, but a little birdie told me that you might have always wanted to be a filmmaker. So tell us a little bit about that and the importance of this film.
Well, Dr. Sean, thank you, thank you for allowing me to be on your show. It is a delight, and to say hello to everyone who is a part of your audience on this morning, on this unique morning, as we are on the eve of a historic election, I believe. And so, just thank you for what you are doing. And just to kind of start off with, and the question that you asked is. I, Pastoring was not on my radar at all. I had great respect for the pastorate. My father served for 33 years as pastor of the Olivet Institutional Baptist Church in Cleveland, Ohio, and was an absolute incredible model of ministry. But I grew up as a PK, so I didn't necessarily want to be a pastor. I was interested in film when I went to when I went to Morehouse, and was hoping to make documentary films and do some type of narratives that would be affirming and positive to help uplift people's spirits. I saw that as a means of ministry, or possibly doing law or something of that nature. Anything but be in the pulpit. But God had different plans and pulled me into the pulpit. But I've always still had a great love for film.
That is so awesome. You know, you would think, or at least I would think, a person who knows you and knows your family history in ministry would say this man has been groomed since birth to do just this, and probably so, right across the table. But it's interesting that you chose to do film, and that right now you have such an amazing film out. Have you had people ask, and if they haven't, I'm going to ask, what do you see the role of church with voting? This movie is all about the rights of voting. And sometimes, people think, well, maybe we shouldn't have, church and voting go together. Now, I grew up, they go together. You couldn't really separate church from my family. My family was church. So how did that play a role into developing the film?
Well, I developed in a church experience where, as you said, Dr. Sean, that voting and your connection to Christ were one and the same. The history of the black church, not churches that have black people. There's a difference. The history of the black church has always been a space of civic education that has educated black people of how we engage the world. So let's begin. I'm gonna give you a little short historical scenario, and Monica's like, don't talk too long. I know that, but when you start in the slave period, you're talking about 196 slave revolts. Guess what? 192 of those start in church. People were educated and said, you know what? This is not what God desires. When you're talking about post-Reconstruction, those spaces where black people owned and operated, you had the church, you had Masonic temples, and that was pretty much it in terms of spaces that black people totally had control of. And they would use the church, which doubled as a school, which also doubled as a place to educate people about the suffrage movement, educate people about enfranchisement. This was the church. When it came to the Pullman Porters, guess what? Spaces known as the church were the union halls before there were union halls. Why? It was the space we owned and operated. Where other space did we own the land? We own the building. We could say to anybody, look, you can meet here. And so during the Civil Rights Movement in the South, the church became that space. Remember, the Klan didn't go around bombing a whole bunch of schools. They bombed churches because they saw churches as a central location of black power and black spirituality. So the church and voting are supposed to go together because it allows us to be fully human.
Thank you so much for sharing that. It has been on my heart to just share that with people all last week when I was talking, just to friends and family about the importance of voting. So I know that they've now heard it from Reverend Dr. Otis Moss, and now they'll believe me that it is your civic duty as a Christian to go ahead and vote. It is your right and it is your duty. And so tell us a little bit more about the film. Set us up for the film. How did that come about? We are going to watch it here with you. today. And so just set us up with the film. How did you come up with that idea and what's the background to it? And why is it important today that we have this, your film out, Otis's Dream?
Well, the film Otis's Dream is the true story of my grandfather who attempted to vote in 1946 in Troup County, Georgia. It is a part of our family lore. I've heard this story over and over and over again by my father, who told the family about it. He preached on it, talking about his father never having the opportunity to vote. My grandfather was a sharecropper and also a metal smelter. He was a single father, raising five children on his own. His wife, his beloved wife, Magnolia Moss, died as a result of medical apartheid because the White Hospital would not treat her. There was a governor by the name of Eugene Talmadge who was running for reelection, and he was an avowed racist. He said, if you elect me, there will be no Negroes who will ever vote again in the white primaries. His stump speech was, there are three problems in Georgia. One are ends, ends, and ends. He just keep repeating the word over and over again. My grandfather recognized the connection between policy and voting. He recognized that his wife's death was connected to people in power. He understood that obviously we are so powerful that if you've got to keep us from voting, that means we have a lot of power. And so he went out in 1946 alone. And I think everybody needs to understand that, by himself. A black man walking alone in the rural South was dangerous. And he knew that he may not come home, but he wanted to exercise his right to vote. And he walked and walked and walked from polling place to attempt to vote.
Wow, what an incredible legacy to grow up listening to. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for your team. Thank you for your family for sharing this story, for putting the film together. Um, I was looking, doing a little research on how many views this movie has had, and I could be wrong. I looked, I think on Friday, and it had gotten well over 160,000 views. And I said, well, my goodness, they better get their red carpet clothes together and be ready for this thing to just blow and do extremely well. I am proud of you. I am proud of the story.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
thank you again for being with me on this show. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and play your film. It is a short film. It's about, as you know, 10 to 12 minutes. And then we'll have you back to just give us a word after the film before we close the show. So just hold on one second. Let me get it queued up here. And here we go.
Let me tell you a story. Story about my father, Otis Moss Sr. My father's one morning in the fall of 1946, he got up, determined to cast his ballot. My father was a farmer, a sharecropper in the rural South. He served in the military during the First World War. Always a man of dignity, quiet courage and determination. Our mother, his devoted wife, had died at an early age, and my father struggled as a single parent of five children. I'm going to vote today. We were amazed, excited that our Father is about to do something really significant. He walked from the house well dressed, well groomed, 6 miles to the town center. Now, every age, things have been introduced to keep certain people from voting, especially black people. We knew the racism, the hatred, the injustice represented in Governor Eugene Talmadge.
Some Negroes will vote if I'm your governor. They won't vote in our white party the next 4 years.
He was well aware of all of the dangers, toils, snares, roadblocks to keep him from voting. But he was willing to face all of that and exercise his right to vote. He did not know what the experience would be for him on that day, but he was well aware of what was taking place all over the South at that very moment. Sir, I'm Otis Moss, and I'm here to vote.
What did you say your name was?
Otis Moss.
Otis, it looks like you've come to the wrong polling place. You need to go over to the Mountville School.
I have a letter here from the county stating that I vote here.
People from your side of town vote in Mount Pleasant. You're supposed to get left, nail thin, throat, past you.
May I have my letter back? Let me tell you a story about my grandfather. He already walked 6 miles to the first polling place. Now he's being told he's come to the wrong place. A clear and good night. Now he has to go to Montville School. Montville School is in a different city. I imagine as my grandfather walked, the sounds of the world crept into his ears. You are a second-class citizen. You are 3/5 of a person. You are nothing but a Negro. But in spirit, he heard his voice. The song say, ain't gonna let nobody turn you around. Not just walking, but marching. He steps through the doors of the Montville School, unsure of what he is doing. I'm here to vote. I'm sent here from the LaGrange courthouse.
You are in the wrong place. You're supposed to go with the Lincoln School.
The clerk from the courthouse said I was to come here.
You know about that, but I don't. You're supposed to go to the Rosemont School.
Man.
Let me tell you the story of my great grandfather. Because of the color of his skin, he was voted and made his right of one of his freedoms. And because of the way he looked, he wasn't allowed to. Despite the next polling place being 6 more miles, despite the disappointment and anger and frustration, his determination, strong will, and dream to vote outweighed any disappointment that crossed his mind.
Boy, I sure am sorry, but the polling place closed. Now, if you would have been here 5 minutes earlier, we would have let you in.
Wounded, but never give up. Denied, but never accepting that denial. Insulted, but refusing to accept the inwardly, thereby.
Malcolm would like to get a call with the. Well, we know if it would be possible if we get a family call with the artist who did the. They're both living in South Africa now.
Years after that, our father was killed in an automobile accident. Fast forward, I became a participant in the civil rights movement and the voting rights movement, and joined Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in the Selma March, witnessed the signing of the Voting Rights Bill 1965. That was a great moment. It was a great victory in the civil rights struggle. It was a great accomplishment. However, no one could dig up our father's bones and put a ballot in his hand. Some things are beyond repair. Oh, you'll pop on there. Next time. Next time. Listen here. Promise me. If you get a chance, you gotta vote. One of the remarkable moments in my life and in my memory taken my son, Otis III, to vote, I paused on my side of the curtain in prayerful silence and listened for Otis III punch his ballot. That became music. Freedom music. Liberation music. The sound of my father's footsteps trying to cast his vote.
Walk with me, Lord. Walk with me. Walk with me, Lord.
Wow. Just wow. Wow, wow, wow. I am watching this film, I believe, for the fourth or fifth time now. And I am telling you, I see something new every time. And I'm just thankful that you allowed us to share this film. I am hopeful that people are watching it and will continue to watch it. And I am thankful that you're here with us after the film. Just tell us, Reverend Moss, what do you want us to know, not only about the film, but because of the film or after the film? What's one message you would love for the viewers and the listeners today to take away from the experience they just had with that film?
I want people to know that it's a story of hope, a story of courage. It's a story of tenacity. It's a story of faith. It's an American story. It's an aspirational story. It's a story that should inspire you because my grandfather, what's so powerful is my grandfather didn't have the opportunity to vote, but his act inspired my father. My father was involved in the civil rights movement. My father's involvement is passed on to me and is passed on to MK and to Elijah. When I had the first opportunity to vote, I was able to cast my vote in a primary for Reverend Jesse Jackson. When my son had the opportunity to vote, he had the opportunity to vote for the first time and vote for a Black woman to be mayor. So we both had the opportunity to vote for someone who looked like us. And that's because of the tenacity, courage, and faith of my grandfather. And it's a story that seems to resonate. It's a story, let me just it had popped into my head. We received a note from South Korea that they want to translate the film into Korean because they were so moved by it. They said, this is a story that speaks about disenfranchisement. And what was so moving is the Korean community, unbeknownst to many of us, very much connects with the experience of African Americans because they were colonized by the Japanese. They were told that they're not fully human. They were told that you are second and third class citizens. And this gentleman stated that this story speaks. Will you translate it into Korean? It's a story I think of for anyone who has ever experienced marginalization. It's a story of every American immigrant who comes through Ellis Island. And when we understand the connectivity, that we are all created by God, that we all come from the same creator, and that God wants to see us thrive, that's when we can make America, not make America great again, but we can make America into what it is supposed to be.
What an amazing, amazing message to leave our viewers. And I just want to continue to encourage viewers and listeners to share the film and to watch the film again and again and to share it in their church groups, their network, their news groups, all over the place. So if they want to watch it again, if they want to replay it, how would they do so? Where do they go?
All they need to do is go to otisdream.com. It's a website that we've created for the film. And on that website, you'll be able to play the film. You can show the film. You can link it there. There are also resources where you can sign up to fight against voter suppression. The organization Fair Fight, that was created by Stacey Abrams, Spelman graduate, and a tremendous leader in this country. Also, you will find the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, the premier group that is fighting against voter suppression. They are taking people to court right now, people who are trying to take away our vote. And there's a great organization that people may not be familiar with. It's called the Brennan Law Center. It's part of NYU. If you want to find out in your state, in your county, on your block, if there's something that is nefarious going on around voting, or someone is redrawing a district and they're trying to make sure that this group wins and this other group doesn't, the Brennan Law Center is the premier research and policy group. If you want to know what can we do in our community, they write up, hey, here's the policy that you need to have in your community to protect your vote. Excellent resource. And of course, we have Rock the Vote that's also available there if you just want to find out where your polling location is. All of those things are on our website.
That is quite wonderful. And I think you have a pretty nifty hashtag too that people can. I know I used it. I voted, and one of my sons was his first time voting, who, Trevor down in Prairie View, he had to vote in Texas. I said, baby, you got that mail-in ballot. You better put that in the right box.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we use the hashtag too of Vote the Dream, just so that you can capture all the pictures of the outcome of all those who support you in this filmmaking and support, voter rights. I encourage you to use that same hashtag. And thank you so much, Reverend Otis Moss. I know this is an early morning and you've got so many shows to do and so much to do just in your regular life and for your church family. I just thank you for being with us today, sharing with us your story, allowing us to air it and discuss it with you. I invite you to come back again another time when you have more time.
I would be delighted, Dr. Sean.
You have you and First Lady Monica on.
Yes, let her know. She has to be on too, okay?
Yes, I will. Talk about your amazing journeys together. So do great. And if you get on that red carpet, just shout out Dr. Sean.
We will do that.
Okay, and so if you want to watch this episode again, or you want to catch up on episodes of the show, again, The Morning Lift Show, you can go to our website, www.themorningliftshow.com. That's again, that www.themorningliftshow.com. You can find all the episodes previous to this one. This is episode 10. And then all of the calendar with our upcoming shows and guests through the end of the year are there so that you can never miss the show. It's every Monday morning at 8 a.m. We'll be here every week here on Intellectual Radio and iHeart Station, and again on Facebook Live on Dr. Sean Kyle, because this show is all about getting you going on your spiritual, physical, and emotional and mental wellness journey. So stay lifted this week. Stay encouraged. Make sure you vote, and we'll see you next time. Bye now.
If you have enjoyed The Morning Lift, please visit our website at themorningliftshow.com. You will find upcoming events as well as options for donating to our 501c3 organization. Be inspired, be uplifted, and be blessed. It's The Morning Lift.